Hello and welcome to Back of the Net and Beyond. My name's Danny Thomas and today I'm going to be speaking to Karl George, who is the director at the Governance Forum. How you doing, Karl? You okay?
I'm great, Danny. Good to see you. I
Good
was
to see
just
you.
saying, one of those heavy, busy days, but
Yeah,
such is life.
yeah, that's it. Well, you're a busy man, so I appreciate you coming on, appreciate your time. As I mentioned before, kind of in terms of the podcast, it's speaking to kind of athletes, former athletes, figures within sport like yourself who are kind of aware of the transferable skills that athletes have got, but the athletes or industry leaders may not be aware of that. So it's about promoting that, and obviously we want to speak about what you're doing because you're doing great things at the moment. But yeah, how's life? Because you mentioned you've had a busy day, so kind of how's life for you at the minute?
Well, we're at a season in time where we're all in lockdown and getting used to, and dare I say, the new normal and unprecedented. I'm sick of saying those words, but that's the time we're in at the moment. And
Yeah,
we're looking at a new lockdown, not knowing what the result's going to be. But I might be a little bit of a weirdo because I actually enjoy my own company and I
same
actually
here.
enjoy doing this.
Yeah, it's I'm one of those kind of I'm one of those people as well. I don't mind my own company, and now I'm working from home as well. So again, that's even more up my street. But yeah, some people are obviously it's different for different people. Some people like to be around people 24/7, but that's not really me. So yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, you're director at the Governance Forum. So just talk to me about the Governance Forum, kind of what it's about, and let everyone else know as well.
Okay, yeah, and Daniel thinks a great job you're doing about talking about athletes and what they're going to do post career. And one of the things that I do in my business is I support organisations from a strategic point of view. So the board, the senior leadership team, to just make sure that they're getting their what they want for their strategy is
Mm,
being implemented in the right way.
okay.
And on top of that, I do corporate governance. So I look after boards and senior leadership teams to make sure that they're operating effectively.
Okay.
So that's the main thing. I
Mm,
train board members as well, and this is where the sports things comes into it. I train board members, whether they've got lots of experience and need a refresher, or
mm,
board members who haven't got any experience.
right.
And what I've been doing with footballers and other athletes is training them in what to do in the boardroom so they can take the transferable skills that they've got and have an impact in the private, public, and voluntary sector, whether that's a housing association, a local school or charity, or NHS trust, or even in the corporate world, but lots of them in football as well.
That's massive, and it's a great initiative. And it sounds like you've got a lot going on, and I'm assuming within that kind of remit there is a lot of kind of strands and facets that you touch on. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be involved in that to a certain degree. And the course starts tomorrow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll catch you tomorrow on that as well. But yeah, so you touched on kind of you help athletes kind of gain knowledge, understanding within the boardroom, within kind of any remit. So that could be council, schools, sport, whatever, which is great. How did you get involved in that? How did you? Because I know you're the creator of the Effective Board Member program. So how did that come about?
Well, let me take you a little bit back, Danny, because at the age of about 14, is the first time I sat on a committee to help out. It was a race equality magazine, coincidentally, at the
Okay.
time. And I used to support it. And it was because of, dare I mention it, it was a girl that I fancied, and she used to go to the meetings and she asked me to come. So that was
Right.
my motivation at the time.
Yeah.
But however, it got me started on going to committee meetings. And then I did my training around my African history and culture. And
Mm,
I formed an organization called Black Link. So
okay.
we used to start to have regular meetings. So what I didn't know I was doing at the time was I was doing governance because we're
Right.
having regular meetings. We're having to have discussions and deliberations
Yeah.
and decide how we're going to do things. And that was my first foray into governance without even calling it governance.
Okay.
As I moved on in life, having set up that organization, probably one of the biggest not-for-profits I set up was something called 100 Black Men. And I set up the first international chapter of an organization that had been going in the 60s in the United States for generations. And what they did is mentor specifically Black boys.
Okay.
Because every statistic you can think of, they were at the bottom of it.
Right.
So I found that the same thing was in the UK, and they had something like 10,000 members, 90 chapters at the time. And I thought I would set one up here, having been encouraged by one of the chapter presidents in the United States.
Okay.
So I set up that organization. Again, it's corporate governance again. It's me setting up a board. It's me bringing people together. It's me making sure that we can mentor, particularly Black boys, but we did girls as well. And we did whole school programs.
Right.
And that's kind of the type of thing I did. And being a businessman, I also set up a Black Business Association and also an African Caribbean Business Forum and a Young Directors Forum, because I've always been entrepreneurial.
Right.
But the thing that I've always had is this thing about setting up organizations and running them. So in my own business, I realized that I was sitting on the boards of lots of different types of organization, because back in the day, if you were a young Black man, you fulfilled that objective of being young, fulfilled the objective of being Black. I was a qualified accountant with my own business, so they want people with finance skills. So I kept being asked to sit on boards, and I probably then thought to myself, I was flattered by it, and I never used to say no. And then I was on too many boards, and I couldn't give the contribution until I learned to say no. But it gave me a really good experience. So a long-winded way of saying, I decided, having got all that experience, that I was going to set up a program for young Black men to train them in governance and get them positioned on boards. And that program grew to Black people generally, because we included women. Then it grew into a young person's program. And then how did I get to football? And I'm going to say all the names. I hope I don't forget them because I'll be in trouble. But Michael Johnson, Jason Roberts, Dave Barnett, Darren Moore, Leon Mann came to me and asked me. It was a time of, remember the racism in football and Ferdinand, Seaga. It was around that time that they said, what can we do about it? And I says, the program that I've got for the young leaders, why don't we do one of them in football? And I said, go away and see if you can get some people who are up for studying hard, because there's a month program. You have to take an exam at the end of it, that they have the ability to take on board this information and work hard, and then are motivated enough to then go and sit on boards, because no point doing all of this, they're not going to go and sit on a board. And basically they got me 15 people. I didn't expect to get 15 footballers to come and say, yeah, we're going to do it. They got those footballers, which included Chris Ramsey, Les Ferdinand, Nathan Blake. And again, I shouldn't start naming them because I would forget some. So we got all those people onto the program. And that first program was like a pilot. And it was fantastic, because what we found was, although people said footballers, they won't turn up, or footballers, they won't study, or footballers, now you're never going to get them to complete it, or footballers, they won't take the exam. Every single thing that was predicted was wrong. It was the opposite. They came early. They did more work than any of my other cohorts, because they sit the same exam. They were more competitive. And they were even better in the boardroom because of, I don't know what it's about you, the footballers. I don't know if it's because of the banter that you always have, but they're more articulate and collaborative and challenging in the boardroom. So actually we had a really great program. So I'll pause there to say that in terms of how it came about, it started with us looking at some young leaders, Black men that are trying to support. We developed a program which became very successful. And then because of these cohort, and the other one was Dave Regis, by the way, who'd introduced us to the program. And the reason why I did it, I must mention the late Cyril, because Cyril's a great mate of mine, Cyril Regis,
Yeah.
and he told Jason to talk to me. So without him, we probably would have never had this program.
Wow, that's massive. And you've kind of covered about 3 questions there. Because I was going to ask you kind of who was involved, who's graduated, and things like that. Because I've done some research. Obviously, we've spoken before off air as well, and you kind of told me about kind of the program, and that's kind of why I'm involved in it essentially. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I mean, so it's not just, this isn't just a means to an end. It's a case of you come with the mindset that you're going to obviously learn, obviously network accordingly, gain some advice, and obviously then maybe progress on to boardroom level at a later date, or even sooner for people who may be unemployed at the moment, as you know, given the circumstances that we're in. So it's a massive thing that you're doing. And obviously you've had to kind of not reinvent yourself, but adjust to the current climate, because before, I'm assuming, obviously meet somewhere and you'd obviously have a class, but now obviously everything's online. So how was that for you, kind of making that transition to a certain degree?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I've had to, like everybody else, adapt to the environment we're in and create. And you'll see the board game that we do. The board game is a physical game that you have round a boardroom table. You have people working together collectively in teams. So we had to recreate that on an online platform, which we've been able to do now. So that was a reinvention, and also making sure that you get the best out of the program, because there's something to that connectivity, getting to know each other. And I think a really good advantage of a program like this is that because you have to study and take an exam, there's many of the people who've been on it who've gone on to do other types of exam, other types of studying, because it's got that passion again for something that I've done for a long time. So we teach study techniques and learning techniques and so on. So people who haven't studied for a while, they say, okay. And although we're talking about governance, you're talking about business. So you'll start to watch the news more. You'll listen to current affairs. You'll understand what's going on politically and what's going on with business. And what's really exciting for me is when the players themselves are coming back and sharing case studies with me, or telling me that this organization failed and there was bad governance there. That's what's really exciting.
Brilliant. And then obviously, so you've got, well, I say obviously, it's not obvious at all, but you've got an MBE. So talk to us about the MBE, because obviously that's something special as well. How did that come about?
Yeah, I remember I told you about all those organizations I set up. So 100 Black Men, African Caribbean Business Forum, and so on. I think because of my contribution to the community, particularly the mentoring that I've done, and some of my mentees have been very successful actually over the course of the last couple of decades. And my MBE was for that work that I did really, of launching 100 Black Men, and also the Black Business Association and the other membership type bodies that I pioneered.
That's brilliant, and congratulations for that. I mean, as I mentioned before, it's not just like a means to an end. There's like progress afterwards for kind of whichever avenue you want to pursue it after you've graduated. And you've obviously had a lot of successful people who have come through the program. And one that always springs to mind for me is Les Ferdinand. Not only because I obviously know of him through football, and he was a great player, but he's now, I think he's still working at QPR at boardroom level, I believe, anyway. And I didn't know until kind of latterly that he'd actually been through the program. So that's massive. So that's kind of motivation for anyone who's potentially looking for a role at the moment or in the future, whether it be near or far. How is it for you? Because obviously you're dealing with a mixture of people, young, old, male, female, black, white. How is it for you when you come across kind of, I'm assuming you treat everyone the same anyway, but when you see someone like Les stepping into your classroom, like, what's the feeling for you?
I think for me, luckily with I do watch football, and I am a fan. In fact, my youngest son now is signed his first professional contract, which is amazing to me. because I thought he was going to be an architect, since that's where I was pushing him.
Yeah.
So we've had some challenges to get that
Mm,
sorted. But anyway, because I don't know all of the different players and where they're from,
mm,
um, I'm not starstruck in inverted commas. I'm not that
yeah.
kind of person anyway.
Mm,
Obviously, I would have known Les Ferdinand when he came on the course, and many of the players.
mm,
Um, my son's godfather, one of my great friends, Dave Barnett, is a footballer. So I've been around
yeah.
uh, those people over a number of years.
Mm,
So for me, it's just another cohort. Everybody's treated equally.
mm,
Everybody has the same ability to get themselves through the program.
mm,
And I try and make sure that everyone's comfortable, because sometimes if you've got a bit of a brand and a name, you might even feel more intimidated than the other guys in there, because you're
yeah.
coming outside your comfort zone now. You're
Yeah.
coming into my domain. My
Yeah.
domain is the corporate governance space.
Mm.
So all the confidence you might have on the field, and this
Yeah.
is the same, not just in football actually.
Yeah.
Regardless who comes on my programs, I've
Mm,
trained over 800 people now in 11 countries, and regardless of where they come from, they're in my domain, the
yeah.
TPF, the governance forum, zoo.
So what you're saying, you're the governor then?
I'm the governor, that's what they call me.
Nice. You've actually saved me some money. You wouldn't know, but you've saved me some money actually. So I actually had your book in my Amazon basket, and I was due to
Okay,
buy it, and then obviously I got the like the program pack that came through the post last week, and in
okay.
there was the book. So yeah, appreciate that. So that'll be kind of my next read, if that makes sense.
Brilliant.
So yeah, appreciate obviously sending the book to me. And in terms of the book, that was one of the, well, it was number one bestseller. Well, it was on the number one bestsellers list for management and leadership on Amazon Kindle. So that's a
Yeah.
massive achievement. How did that make you feel?
Um, I was saying this recently to my youngest son actually, because when he got his pro contract, he just kind of went okay. Or when he scores a goal, he doesn't really celebrate.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to him, come on, let your emotion out.
Mm.
But he gets it from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, some people who take, I am pleased, but you
Mm.
kind of take things in your stride and you
That's like
start
me. Yeah.
looking for the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't mind admitting, I've been through some counselling recently, and one of the things my counsellor said is to take some time to reflect,
Yeah.
take some time to enjoy all the things that you've succeeded in
Mm.
before you move on to the next thing. And my
Right.
whole life, I've been just moving on to the next thing,
Really.
so not even celebrating the successes that I've had before. So
Right.
so that's some learning for me actually.
And have you been listening? Have you taken heed of what that person said?
I am doing it, and I'm
Yeah.
a lot better. I'm a lot better. I don't think I've cracked it, because
Yeah.
coincidentally, we're now in just October 2020, Black History Month,
Mm.
and I'm launching the Race Equality Code 2020. So
Wow.
that's a new thing that I came up in the month of July. It will be
Okay.
launched this month and in the public domain. So
Wow.
still always thinking and doing
Yeah.
things.
Brilliant. I'll have to. I'll look out for that. So as we know, you've spoken to a lot of athletes. A lot of them have come through your programs and different kind of seminars that we held and webinars and whatever else it is. Kind of in the UK and across the seas essentially. Out of all those kind of people that you've seen, and I'm not going to obviously get you to pick anyone out, but kind of what transferable skills kind of spring to mind that you see athletes have innately got in their psyche?
Yeah. One of the things I always say actually is that when people are looking for board members, and
Mm,
when we started the football program, I said one of the things that you're going to get out of the athletes, the discipline that you've had to pursue a professional career
mm,
all of those years means that you've got that discipline still, and
mm.
apply it across other areas of your life.
Yeah,
They'll have that same discipline and that competitiveness to bring to that boardroom. But two of the other things is normally they have a lot of grassroots stroke stakeholder, we call it, engagement. So they're better with stakeholder engagement, whether that's customers, beneficiaries, They're
Yeah.
probably they're better at appreciation of stakeholders,
Right.
and thirdly, because you're competitive and you want to win, you bring that dynamism to the boardroom on top of that articulate ability to get your point across. And I don't know if it's the interviews you've had or some of the media stuff that people have had to do. I know even at a young age, as soon as Aidan was playing and he scored a couple of goals, the mic's been in front of him and he's had to do an interview and come across well. So some of that putting you under pressure is the same type of transferable skill we need in the boardroom, because in a boardroom, 12 people there, everyone wants to make their point, and you've got to get in, make your point, articulate, and it's got to be influencing and negotiating and transforming what's going on in the meeting.
Brilliant. And I can resonate with a lot of that as well, to be honest. I mean, for me, one of the main reasons we're doing the podcast is it's about kind of, aside from the transferable skills, it's making athletes aware that like retirement essentially isn't the end of the world. You've still got a long way to go in your life. And sometimes it's out of your hands. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult if retirement comes because of through injury or whatever it may be. Luckily for me, I think my own choice at the age of 31, it's like 7.5 years ago, kind of there or thereabouts anyway. But for me, when I was kind of growing up through football, and I'm assuming it's the same for a lot of sports, there isn't much emphasis on maybe learning another trade or going to college or whatever. And if it was around, but it wasn't something you necessarily had to do. It's probably changed slightly now, but I do know that I speak to a lot of people and kind of they're still unsure about what to do afterwards or whether to do something whilst playing. And I kind of encourage people to do something whilst playing, not only because it takes your mind away from your chosen sport, but also gives you a bit of focus moving forward in your life. And for me, if I was a 16, 17, 18-year-old, or even, I don't know, mid-20s, and this program that you're offering at the moment was out there, readily available, I would jump on it straight away. But unfortunately, when I was playing, it wasn't there. It wasn't around, especially when I was kind of younger. So I don't know why. I mean, obviously, you came up with this idea, and it's a massive idea, and like, it's a great achievement that you've done this. But it's something that I think a lot of footballers, especially, and I always draw on footballers just because naturally I can connect with them because I used to play. I think if more athletes were aware of this, I think more footballers would want to get involved. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, there is an awareness challenge, but also when you're in the short term, once you're enjoying football, you're not thinking of the long term, you're not thinking of what's going to happen then. And it's a real maturity to be able to say, whilst I'm still enjoying it, still playing, to think about my future and to come on a program like this. So I've done one for the Professional Cricketers Association as well. I've had rugby and I've had a couple of athletes on here. So it is cross sports, but someone to do it when they're younger, it's very rare I get current players. I normally get people who've finished their career and they're now thinking what we're going to do next. But if you wanted to have a little bit of a head start, like some of the ones that have been successful on the program, Wes, for example, at Leicester, he did it whilst captain, whilst at Leicester, and he's now using it in some of the roles that he's got at the FA and so on. So I think that Wes Morgan, and I think that's the way that people should start to think about their career over the medium term and not think, because you never know when it's going to end, number one, which should be. The PFA do a lot of programs to get you prepared as well, to say, right, let's consider what other alternatives there are. And not everybody wants to be a coach or a manager. In fact, you mentioned Les the other day, and Les said he wanted to be technical director, not manager. He wants to be in the boardroom. And one of the things that the program did was given the ability to understand what it's like in a boardroom. So the course is transferable. It's really talking about business and corporate life. But the concept that you're talking about, I think is commendable, Danny, that you're helping athletes to start to think about the future that's going to come and your retirement age is much younger than any other sector, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
you're talking about 30s, and
yeah,
that's the average age. I get to understand
yeah,
that
yeah.
that's where some people have just started to grow up,
That's it. Yeah.
unfortunately. So,
Mm. Yeah, that's completely true. And I mean, to kind of come to a close, is there anything that you would advise any players, athletes, kind of approaching retirement, mid-career, early careers, kind of any advice that you kind of may think would help them going forward?
I'll give you a story. And this happened just this week, actually. Someone asked me to mentor a young man from London who's in finance. I'm in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to call one of my mentees in London to see if he'll do it for me.
Mm.
So when I did that and I called him, he would speak to me and say, Carl, I just want to tell you something. I remember once when you was mentoring and you was about to go to sit some exams for something or you're studying, and he was going, you studying? How comes you're studying? You're the guy who teaches everybody. And he said, at the time I said to him, never stop learning.
Yeah.
Always be studying, always be developing, always be having new skills. And he said he'll never forget that. And that's what he's done. He's doing an MBA now,
Right.
which is why he was telling me. His company sponsored him to do it. So again, long-winded way of answering your question. What would I say? I would say to everybody out there that always be studying, developing, hone your football skills, but make sure you're getting a broader perspective on all the other skills and attributes that you've got. And you've got purpose in life, and you can release that purpose. Every one of us has got that purpose, but you be always studying, be always learning, be always developing. And this is just one thing. So this might not be for everybody, but this course about corporate governance is one way. But if it's not this, find something else. Vocational, if it has to be. Might go back to university, whatever it may be.
That's great advice, and for anyone listening out there, again, I would take that on board. I mean, I'm doing the program, looking forward to it tomorrow. I can't wait, and it's free as well. It doesn't cost anything, and I think a lot of people get put off by some of the courses that are available out there because it's quite a lot of money, and not everyone's got kind of thousands of pounds to put into a course or whatever. So for me, that was one of the massive perks for me. And again, it's something that I'd say it's outside of my comfort zone to a certain degree. I don't mind meeting new people or conversing or whatever. That doesn't bother me at all. But I'm kind of the same. I've got the same mindset as you to a certain degree, where you said always keep learning. I'm one to kind of learn indirectly, always ask questions. I'm always reading and stuff, which I've mentioned before on previous podcasts. So this is kind of right up my street. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, appreciate. Go on.
One minor correction: it is free to the candidates, but there is a cost of the program which PFA pay for.
Yeah,
so
I got to mention that.
We're in trouble because they are paying.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, but the candidates themselves, you're right. That's why you all have to make sure, and we get 100% attendance and 100% exam because it's your commitment. But
brilliant.
Yes, but you are right.
All good. And then in terms of yourself, where can we find you? Like, I want you to promote yourself, company, where we can find you on socials.
Yeah, easiest one is my website is karlgeorge.com. So that's the easiest one to find me on. And then I send out a regular blog actually. So if you go onto the site, register, I'll send out my monthly blog to you as well.
Brilliant. And obviously you're on LinkedIn, you're on Instagram. And what's the name of your book, just to let everyone know?
It's The Effective Board Member. So it's, as it says on the tin, The Effective Board Member.
Brilliant. Appreciate your time. And obviously we'll catch up tomorrow and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Thank you, Danny. Good work. And it is another skill you've developed and learned to be able to interview, keep it flowing. That's excellent. Well done, mate.
Appreciate that. Thanks for the feedback. And like I said, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Take care.